The Bible contains the mind of God, the state of man, the way of salvation, the doom of sinners, and the happiness of believers. Its doctrines are holy, its precepts are binding, its stories are true, and its decisions are immutable. Read it to be wise, believe it to be safe, and practice it to be holy. It contains light to direct you, food to support you, and comfort to cheer you. It is the traveler's map, the pilgrim's staff, the pilot's compass, the soldier's sword, and the Christian's charter. Here, paradise is restored, heaven opened, and the gates of hell disclosed. Christ is its grand subject, our good the design, and the glory of God its end. It should fill the memory, rule the heart, and guide the feet. Read it slowly, frequently, and prayerfully. It is a mine of wealth, health to the soul, and a river of pleasure. It involves the highest responsibility, will reward the greatest labor, and will condemn all who trifle with its sacred contents. Pray it in, read it through, live it out, and pass it on.
Moses was a baby that survived this trying time because he had a mother that trusted God. Let's look at Moses' story and see how he survived the cruel clutches of this Pharaoh. Exodus chapter 2, verses 1 to 10. And a man of the house of Levi went and took as a wife a daughter of Levi. So the woman conceived and bore a son. And when she saw that he was a beautiful child, she hid him 3 months. But when she could no longer hide him, she took an ark of bulrushes for him, daubed it with asphalt and pitch, put the child in it, and laid it in the reeds by the river's bank. And his sisters stood afar off to know what would be done to him. Then the daughter of Pharaoh came down to bathe at the river, and her maidens walked along the riverside. And when she saw the ark among the reeds, she sent her maid to get it. And when she had opened it, she saw the child, and behold, the baby wept. So she had compassion on him and said, "This is one of the Hebrews' children." Then his sister said to Pharaoh's daughter, "Shall I go and call a nurse for you from the Hebrew women, that she may nurse the child for you?" And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Go." So the maiden went and called the child's mother. Then Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Take this child away and nurse him for me, and I will give you your wages." So the woman took the child and nursed him. And the child grew, and she brought him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. So she called his name Moses, saying, "Because I drew him out of the water." It was a bittersweet moment for mothers in that day. It was a wonderful thing that they were with child, but there was a fear in each mother's heart. What if this child was a boy? If he was a boy, he would die. Jochebed, Moses' mother, had those same fears. But when she realized that she had a son, she chose to hide him as long as she could until she couldn't hide him anymore. And what she next did shows her faith and her trust in God. She made a basket and she put the baby inside and she wafted it down the river. God was the one who gave her this baby, and now she was giving this baby back into the hands of God. She chose to lose control of the outcome of the life of her child, but she trusted it into the hands of God. And as the basket floated down the river, Miriam, who was Moses' sister, watched over it to make sure no harm came to it. God honored Jochebed's faith, and a miracle happened. The basket floated down to where Pharaoh's daughter was bathing. Well, this could go 2 ways. Pharaoh's daughter could have killed the baby, but Pharaoh's daughter did not. Instead, she opened the basket and saw there was a baby in it, and immediately she knew it was a Hebrew child. Now, question. How did Pharaoh's daughter know that the baby was a Hebrew child? If we remember back to the lesson on circumcision, we will realize that the thing that set apart a Hebrew male child at a young age, was the covenant of circumcision. There was a mark on a male baby that was Hebrew, that showed that that baby was Hebrew. Pharaoh's daughter agreed to take this child in as her own, but in the meantime, she needed someone to nurse him. Miriam, still standing nearby, offered to help her find a Hebrew woman that would nurse the baby for her. And guess who did Miriam find? She went to her own mother, of course. Jochebed gave her son to God, and now God gave her son back to her. Not only did God allow Jochebed to spend the most precious years of Moses' life with him, but she was even paid for taking care of her own son by Pharaoh's daughter. The first few years of a child's life are the most important. It is where a child gets his identity. And I can just imagine what Jochebed would be whispering to baby Moses when she would cradle him in her arms. Remember Jehovah, Moses. Remember that you are Hebrew. Remember Jehovah as the one true God. You could be our deliverer. Grow up and remember your God. You could be the one that would save our people and deliver us out of bondage. Remember Jehovah, Moses. He is the one true God. Remember Jehovah. Moses lived in the palace for 40 years of his life, but we know that despite the royal treatment, his Hebrew identity was still very strong. Let's continue reading the story in Exodus chapter 2, 11 to 15. Now it came to pass in those days, when Moses was grown, that he went out to his brethren and looked at their burdens. And he saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew, one of his brethren. So he looked this way and that way, and when he saw no one, he killed the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. And when he went out the second day, behold, 2 Hebrew men were fighting. And he said to the one who did the wrong, "Why are you striking your companion?" Then he said, "Who made you a prince and a judge over us? Do you intend to kill me as you killed the Egyptian?" So Moses feared and said, "Surely this thing is known." When Pharaoh heard of this matter, he sought to kill Moses. But Moses fled from the face of Pharaoh and dwelt in the land of Midian. Moses called the Hebrew children his brethren, and brethren means brother. Moses could not take the injustice, and in a fit of anger he killed the Egyptian. This changed the course of his life entirely. Pharaoh was going to kill him for him killing the Egyptian, and so in fear Moses ran to the land of Midian. Midian was a backside of the desert, and Moses dwelt there for 40 years as a shepherd. Perhaps the reason why Moses killed the Egyptian was because he was driven by a sense of destiny, that he would somehow one day deliver the children of Israel. The only problem was he took matters into his own hands, and he acted rashly out of the timing and the plan of God. It took 40 years in the desert before God thought Moses was ready to fulfill his destiny. When Moses was tending sheep one day, God appeared to Moses in a burning bush. Exodus 3, 2-10. And the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a flame of fire from the midst of a bush. So he looked, and behold, the bush was burning with fire, but the bush was not consumed. Then Moses said, "I will now turn aside and see this great sight, why the bush does not burn." So when the Lord saw that he turned aside to look, God called to him from the midst of the bush and said, "Moses, Moses." And he said, "Here I am." Then he said, "Do not draw near this place. Take your sandals off your feet, for the place where you stand is holy ground." Moreover, he said, "I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob." And Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look upon God. And the Lord said, "I have surely seen the oppression of my people who are in Egypt, and have heard their cry because of their taskmasters, for I know their sorrows. So I have come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians, and to bring them up from the land to a good and large land, to a land flowing with milk and honey. Now therefore, behold, the cry of the children of Israel has come to me, and I have also seen the oppression with which the Egyptians oppressed them. Come now, therefore, and I will send you to Pharaoh, that you may bring my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt." But fear set into Moses' heart, and he started making excuses to God. Exodus 4, 10-14. Then Moses said to the Lord, "O my Lord, I am not eloquent, neither before nor since you have spoken to your servant, but I am slow of speech and slow of tongue." So the Lord said to him, Who has made man's mouth, or who makes the mute, the deaf, the seeing, or the blind? Have not I, the Lord? Now therefore go, and I will be with your mouth and teach you what you shall say. But he said, O my Lord, please send by the hand of whomever else you may send. So the anger of the Lord was kindled against Moses, and he said, Is not Aaron the Levite your brother? I know that he can speak well. And look, he is also coming out to meet you. When he sees you, he will be glad in his heart. Moses said he was not eloquent and he was slow of speech. But ironically, this is what the New Testament says about Moses. Acts 7, verse 22. And Moses was learned in all the wisdom of the Egyptian and was mighty in words and deeds. The 40 years Moses spent in the courts of Pharaoh were not a waste. His experience gave him wisdom on how to negotiate into the courts of Pharaoh and earn an audience with him. God knew what he was doing, and God knew the talents and abilities that he had given to Moses. God gives us gifts so that God can use us for his glory. And this brings us to our key number 2. Our talents are designed to be used for God.